Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Mancuso, and I lead communication and outreach efforts for the Summer Health Professions Education Program, better known as SHPEP. For tonight's session, Steps to Success with the SHPEP application, it should be your first of many steps in your path into the health professions. As you'll soon learn, SHPEP scholars have a legacy of success. Over 65% of our scholars that apply to medical and dental school are accepted, and over 78% of our scholars go on to earn advanced degrees. So what is SHPEP? Well, it's a free 6-week summer enrichment program for college freshmen and sophomore students interested in the health professions. And our program is truly committed to strengthening the career development of underserved and economically disadvantaged students while preparing them for a successful career in the health professions. SHPEP's roots go back to 1989 with its first cohort of scholars. Due to the noted decline of medical school applicants from racial and ethnic backgrounds starting in 1977, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation initiated a study in 1984 to learn strategies to change these trends. Findings contributed to the development of the Minority Medical Education Program to increase the acceptance rates of medical school applicants from racial and ethnic minority groups who were underrepresented in rendered medicine. Over the years, the program's intensive academic preparation program expanded to several medical school campuses, and the Association of American Medical Colleges assumed the role of National Program Office in 1993. In 2003, the program changed its name to the Summer Medical Education Program, reflecting the inclusion of students representing a range of economic, cultural, and geographic diversity. In 2006, the program expanded to include dentistry and was renamed the Summer Medical and Dental Education Program. The program ultimately changed its focus to students in the first 2 years of their college experience because, based on the research that we've done with the program and our experience with it, it's really when we saw the students that, they ultimately derived the most benefit. And last but not least, in 2016, in an effort to keep a pace of growing importance of team-based care and interprofessional collaboration, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation expanded the program to include a range of health professions, and the program's name today, the Summer Health Professions Education Program. Now, students can gain experience in medicine, dentistry, nursing, optometry, pharmacy, physical therapy, and public health. And they can gain this experience at any one of our 12 institutions listed right here, which are Columbia University, Howard University, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, University of Alabama at Birmingham, or UAB, UCLA and Charles R. Drew University, University of Florida, University of Iowa, University of Louisville, University of Nebraska Medical Center, UT Health Science Center at Houston, University of Washington, and last but not least, Western University of Health Sciences. Now, what are the benefits of our free program, right? And what does free mean? Well, students receive housing, meals, a stipend of $1,000, and travel assistance. But most importantly, they'll gain guidance from current admissions deans, health professionals, students in health professions schools, and our alumni base of over 30,000 about how to pursue their profession of interest. To be eligible for our program, you must be a high school graduate and currently enrolled as a freshman or sophomore in college, have a minimum overall college GPA of 2.5, be a U.S. citizen, a permanent resident, or have been granted DACA status by U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. And last but not least, you cannot have participated in the program previously. We want everyone to have the SHPEP experience. Now, there are other factors for consideration, and they include that a student either comes from an economically or educationally disadvantaged backgrounds or has demonstrated an interest in issues affecting underserved populations. Now, I want to pause right here and say that our program sites engage in what's called holistic review, which means we're looking at more than just your GPA and the numbers. We want to know your distance traveled. We want to know why a health professions career and pursuing it is important to you. That's why it's critically important for you to submit a compelling personal statement and a strong letter of recommendation. Now, as far as what you'll do during the 6-week enrichment program, you'll gain academic enrichment in the basic sciences and math. You'll participate in career development activities such as developing your CV, your resume, or mock interviewing with current admissions deans. Learning and study skills workshops, which will help you maximize working in individual and group settings. Exposure to clinical settings, which is what's needed to matriculate into a health profession school or program. Workshops in financial planning and health policy. And last but not least, IPE, interprofessional education that addresses effective collaboration across the health professions. Essentially, you get to learn how each of the health professions work collaboratively with one another. That said, I want to talk a little bit more about the application and really give it off to the person that will be giving you this insight, Stephanie Vink. She serves as our product specialist. Stephanie, feel free to take us away.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. As Tony mentioned, my name is Stephanie Vink. I'm the product development specialist for SHPEP. What that kind of means is I work heavily with the application, right? So I'm gonna, for the next few minutes, I'll be going over kind of like a deep dive into it. And of course, we'll have Q&A at the end if you have any other burning questions about it. As I typically start off these, well, I think it's like our annual webinar, right, for the application. I do like to point out a very important piece, which is the website. This has all the information you need. You know, you can check out past alumni stories. Of course, a huge part is actually knowing what site you want to apply to, the dates, the starting date, the ending date, as they vary from each site to site. And another cool part of it is we have the filters here, as I did a little screenshot here. This is under our school page again, where you can see all the health professions that are offered at each site, you know, where they're located, and of course, even the implementation style. Since 2020, you know, we've had some changes in the program, and we have a lot that do hybrid now, and we do have a few that still are strictly residential. So just kind of get a feel for what you're looking for before you actually hit submit on the sites that you're going to apply to. So, of course, let's go to the required application materials. So you have one application. You're only allowed to do one. On that application, you can select up to 3 program sites. We highly recommend that you select 3, just so it increases your chances of getting accepted. There's not any particular order. It's 3. They all get reviewed independently. So that's actually good for you guys, because that actually could mean that you get accepted to all 3 and you get to go to the site that you'd like to go. And the sites do not know the other sites that you applied to, so it's completely anonymous in that way. A part of the application, you have 2 documents that you'll need to get in. One is your transcript or transcripts. So this means any post-secondary institutions you have attended or are attending, college basically, that you'll need to get that transcript in, listed on your application, and get the transcript sent in. Now, quick little reminder, if you're a current freshman, first year, you definitely want to wait till your fall grades are posted before you have any transcripts sent in. If you're a sophomore, go ahead and send them in anytime. You don't have to wait. We're kind of at the time where the grades are ready anyways, but I just always like to put that out. I'll give you an example. Earlier, a couple days ago, I got a transcript from applicant who's a freshman, and they had it sent in with no grades. So like, not only that, they have to get it resent, and it's a waste of money. So just make sure everything's ready before you have it sent in. Another component is the recommendation letter. We only take one, and it needs to come. We have actually quite a few options here. So we do say on the application itself, it does say pre-health advisor or college professor within your major field of study. Now that's, you know, you might say, Stephanie, you know, I'm a first-year freshman. I don't have a college professor or someone I feel comfortable with writing it. That's fine too. You can look at maybe a high school science teacher, math teacher in the high school math teacher, maybe a guidance counselor from high school, or even if you're close to a graduate assistant or a math in a math or science course in college right now, that's all fine. Even if you were maybe employed or intern at a health professions field, someone that knows you well, then definitely think about using them as a reference. Pick someone that's going to actually speak to your abilities as an applicant. That's what it boils down to. Like, you don't want someone who doesn't know you very well to write this. Oh, and one last point on this, as you can kind of see in the bottom here, is this all has to be together to be a complete application. So that means if, a lot of people like start their application, submit it, and then it takes them a month and a half to get their transcript in. Your application is going nowhere until it has your transcript, letter of rec, and it has to be submitted all at one time, and then it gets sent over. So I always say a good or good advice would be if you can have your documents sent in, get those in, take your time on your personal statement, everything before you submit, make sure it looks pretty, and then you can take your time on it. Like, don't rush to get this application submitted if you still have some time. Basically, that's my point. Another question we get a lot is like, when should I do what? What time? We actually don't have an order, so that's pretty cool. As I just said, you can take your time on your actual application, and then if, like, example, if you're a sophomore, go get your transcripts sent in, your letter writer can get it sent in, and we actually can apply it to an unsubmitted application, so that's fine. We only request, particularly with the transcripts now, that if you're going to have your transcripts sent in before you have submitted your application, please make sure that section's filled out. It's a lot smoother because we don't want to go and add it for you because we don't know all the information. We can do that at a later time, but we won't do it until you've actually submitted. So basically, make sure everything's filled out, then have your documents sent in, that's fine. So how do you send in your transcripts? We do have a particular way, you can have them emailed or mailed in, and these addresses are available on our website as well. The only thing, it needs to come from your institution or their transcript service. So that means you cannot email your transcripts to yourself and forward them to us, or have them issued to yourself and sent to us. It really needs to not go through you at all. And that's just, that's how it is when you apply for these programs, right? So make sure you have it sent in the way. We would hate for, to mark it unofficial and you have to pay money again and have it resent the correct way. Another thing about both documents, they have to be postmarked or timestamped by February 5th. So a lot of people not a lot, but some people may not know what that means. And all that means is, like, if you're going to have it mailed in, that actually needs to be physically postmarked by the deadline date at the post office, right? So remember, schools have a processing time, so you definitely don't want to wait till February 5th to order your transcripts. You want to kind of get that in a few days before to allow the processing time so it can actually make it with the February 5th deadline. It does not need to be received or on your app, but it needs to at least have it, on the actual document that this was requested or postmarked by February 5th. So we kind of went over this a minute ago. Sometimes I jump ahead, but transcripts, once again, they just need to come from your institution or their service. Remember, if it's issued to you and you forward it to us, we're going to go mark it unofficial, regardless if you've opened it. And we only need one copy. So this is particular for our sophomores who apply. They tend to apply early and give us their fall transcript with their grades still in process, right, for that fall. And then the spring, they'll try to be like, oh, here's an updated one. We're not going to do that. We only take one copy. So if you decide to get them in now, that's fine. But we're not, come spring, come February, we're not going to take another copy. So make sure, you decide which route you want to go, but we're only going to take one. And then, as I mentioned before, please make sure that whatever coursework you need to be there is up there, especially for our freshmen. Or, if you had a grade dispute, make sure that's taken care of before you send that in, because, it's just not ideal. We're not going to pull it off to put it back on. So getting a letter is a recommendation. We talked about who can get it. So what do they actually have to do? So we have two ways they can submit this for you, or complete this for you, I guess, or formats rather. You can do the form, or they can do an actual signed letter on official letterhead. Either is fine. Now, we used to have a different way of how you would actually get it into us, but this year we added a new feature to the application, which is pretty exciting. All you actually have to do now is, when you get to that section of your application, you're going to input the recommender's name and email, and then an automatic link is going to get sent to them, or email will get sent to them with a link and their directions on how they're going to go ahead and submit that for you. So this is definitely, really exciting news. So that's actually how they're going to submit it for you. But how they do it, whether they want to do a form, letterhead, or both, perfect. It's all up to that recommender. The only thing we request is make sure, that they either electronic sign it or you know, whether they print it out, sign it, and, you know, scan it to themselves, whatever, it needs just to be signed. And then of course, you know, once you have it sent out through your application, they'll get the request. Just do a courtesy follow-up to make sure that they got it and everything, and they understand everything. And this is kind of what it looks like for those of you who have not hopped on the application. So as you can see, it's on the 4th tab, Schools and Activities section. You'll hit Add Request. It will take you to this screen. So that's what the screen is here. And it's pretty simple. And the next one, which I didn't do a screenshot, but it'll be an email preview of what's going to get sent. And then, of course, the confirmation that it was sent. And even though it says it was sent, you definitely still want to follow up and say, hey, you should have received a request email from AMC letter writer, and you know they can look for it through their emails. So a little more tips on this. My 3rd time saying this, but follow up with them because you just always want to make sure they're in the loop. We're only going to take one letter, so it's the first one we're going to get, and it's whatever one we're going to match it to that. If you have somebody that you designate today, and like let's sign out 2 weeks go by and they're like, you know what, I can't do it, that's okay. Like we do have a feature. If you have submitted your app, you can update this, and I'm going to show you that in a later slide on how you can do that. But fear not, you can update it. It's not 100% final. Now, if you haven't submitted your letter, or if you haven't submitted your application, then you would just update it within the application. But I'll show you how to do it after you submit your application as well. So, you know, as Tony mentioned earlier too, a huge part of the application is the personal statement. It's weighed pretty heavily. We definitely, you know, this is your time to shine. We want you to take your time, you know, really speak to you as an applicant, you know, why you want to pursue a career in healthcare. This is, yeah, basically your spot to put in anything or even tie in other parts of the application and your journey as an applicant, you know. So definitely take your time on doing this section. So yeah, and that you can't see it here obviously, but if you haven't started the app, there is guidelines on how to answer this. So don't worry, we do help you out a little bit. Some other tips, please check for your errors, have someone else review it, make sure it makes sense. You know, be yourself, express that. We always recommend like take a couple days to write it, step away, come back. You know, things like that. Have someone you trust really read it too. And then the other part I haven't read, not in a way, you know, some people get a little confused by this, but you actually have the ability to, let me back up. The program is interprofessional, right? So let's say I'm interested in medicine, but I kind of interested in optometry too. You're actually allowed to apply to like one site as an optometry, 2 sites medical, something like that, right? 100% cool. We actually encourage that. But if you are going to do that, just make sure your personal statement reflects that, so that if you have your 2 sites that are medicine reading it and the 3rd site is optometry, they're not reading, go, why am I only reading about medicine? No mentions of optometry, right? So definitely we can save some, if you have some questions about that, we can answer at the end, but just make sure if you're going to apply to different health professions, speak to it in your personal statement. So the timeline and important dates. Obviously the deadline, February 5th, 11:59 Eastern time. So that means if you're on the West Coast, remember you're 3 hours behind. So on February 5th, you know, don't be waiting until midnight your time because it will be closed. So make sure you know your time zone, and then of course calculate the difference. Excuse me. The materials don't have an Eastern dead, like as long as it's February 5th, we're cool. Don't worry about that. A huge date is March 15th, 2024. So once you've completed an application, you definitely want to put a little reminder in your calendar to check your application on the 15th for your results. Another kind of date we throw around is on March 19th. The program sites will actually be able to, they'll make decisions on waitlists. Kind of getting ahead of the game here. I'll explain a little later, but it's another thing to think about, but it's really dependent on if you get on a wait list. Once you're on a wait list, you have 24 hours to confirm. On the 15th, you have 2 days to confirm. Again, I'll go over this in a little later. Probably should have rearranged this, but and then if you are accepted, you're kind of in the site's hands after that point. So they'll follow up with the next steps. We're gonna switch gears a little bit and kind of like look at the actual application itself. Maybe some of you on the webinar haven't even started. I don't know, right? So, but this is actually what your screen would look like if you submitted your application and you went back in to log in. So you can't really see your status in terms of like documents until you actually submitted, right? So the first page is like, if I submitted, and this is the screen I'm going to see. As you can see, I circled submitted, and then there's a view details section. So you'd want to click on that. Do the next slide, Tony. And once you're in that screen, this is how you're kind of see like the real time of your document status. So remember I told you like, oh, you could submit things before, we can add this on your behalf. Like, I mean, not behalf, but add this while you're still in the process of doing it. That's kind of like the scenario right here, right? So if I submitted my application, I'm logging back in, or I'm not logging in, but checking out my results or my view details section, this is what I would see. And I'd see like, oh, received and verified. Obviously we want it all to be green, right? Received and processing means that, we have it, but it hasn't really made it officially onto your account. And then of course you have the red, which is what we don't want to see, or it's fine if we see it, right? But we need to make sure that turns green. So those are kind of the different statuses you'll see on your documents. Of course, again, you want it to be green. Exactly what I went over before, just a different status you'll see. So the red, the yellow, which is received and processing, received and verified is green. And the last one is unofficial. Now you'll get an email. You'll get an email if you get it unofficial, but you would see this status, particularly for the transcript. If you went ahead and sent us your transcript yourself, or even sent us an unofficial transcript, right? It will say unofficial. So that's kind of the status you'll see. And then we won't remove it until you have it sent in correctly. So as I mentioned before, you can only view your status after you submit your application. But let's say you want to know now, right? Please, I love it. Keep on track and checking that. You can email us or call us and we could see where it is. And you might get a pleasant surprise and be like, oh, everything's, received and verified on my account. You could check with us ahead of time. You don't actually have to wait till you submit. And like, since we're at it, let's go ahead and see what a completed application looks like. So this is 100% what you want. So when you would log in, you would say, see how it went from submitted to completed, and then you would click the view details. And once again, it completed, and we're loving the green. It's green, green, green. That's exactly what you want to see, because that means your application is going to be reviewed, and you're done. You're finished until March 15th. So definitely, it's a good feeling. And so last time around the tips here, we do recommend you apply early. It's not necessarily going to increase your chances of getting in. It's really for peace of mind. I would say if anything, try to get your documents in on the earlier side if you can, just because it's a lot of stress worrying about your transcript and your letter trying to get here, or getting it to your application. If you need a little more time with your statement and everything like that, then definitely take it, right? So it's just more about peace of mind. I always tell applicants a great time to get everything in is mid-January. It's pretty comfortable. Because after that, it kind of gets a little hairy with everyone's kind of, we're procrastinators. People do wait. Remember, don't forward your transcripts. Don't send us your transcripts yourself. Don't mail your transcript in yourself. Just don't touch it at all. Just have it done by somebody else. Well, I mean, your institution. And then the last thing I stress over it again, check your application. Don't be one of those people that just submits and then, because it's very, it's not a fun conversation to have on March 15th when someone finally logs in and they don't have decisions, right? So you just want to stay on top of it. And definitely reach out to us. We're here to help with any questions. I think there's one more slide. So, kind of like I said, I went over this a little bit, but on March 15th, decision day, as we call it, you're going to log in if your application's complete, right? But by this point, you checked a million times, so it should be, you're going to see your results, and we're pretty quick, you have 2 business days to confirm any acceptances. And then, after that, you won't see a change. If you're waitlisted, you won't see a change until this year will be March 19th. So just make sure you stay on top of that. You will be removed if you do not make the 2 business day decision date, if you were accepted. So I think, yeah, and I think that is my cue to hand it off to the wonderful Alessio, who's a former participant and he's ambassador now.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and really appreciate your presentation. So, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy days to join us here this evening. My name is Alessio Varga. I'm currently the Communications and Outreach intern here at SHPEP. Been working here since June, but I did participate in SHPEP at the University of Florida back in the summer of 2020. So it's been about 3.5 years now, but really just excited to kind of dive into a discussion here with Arian, who is an ambassador of the program. So Arian, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Of course, thanks so much, Alessio. Hey guys, my name is Arian, and I participated in SHPEP this past June, so 2023, and I was in the medicine pathway. Currently, I am a third-year undergraduate student at the University of Washington, and that's where I also did my SHPEP journey here at the University of Washington, as you can see here, with my gear. So go Huskies!
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Arian. And you started speaking about a bit your undergraduate major. So can you tell us what you chose for this major and why you chose this specific pathway?
Of course. Yeah, so I am majoring in biology and specifically general biology. As a pre-med student, so I am preparing to go to medical school, to apply to medical school. So of course, aside to its alignment with medical school requirements, I am someone, as Tony mentioned at the very beginning, who loves that holistic approach. And general biology major allows me to learn a little bit about everything, and that includes right, so organisms like humans, animals, plants, microorganisms, and much more. So the biology major really allows me to be a holistic person, as well as provide as much value use when it comes to the world of medicine and approaching to my future patients as an upcoming healthcare professional.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. And I myself, I majored in chemistry, and I feel like selecting a major in the natural sciences, especially if you want to go into a career in the health professions, it really opens up your eye to so many different aspects of just education and academia, right? Because you're learning about the sciences, but then you're learning so many other skills that you can apply to your life. Like one of the things that I take away the most from my chemistry major was just thinking critically, right? Just analyzing different problems from different angles. So I really feel like your major, going into it, some people may change at some point, but really it's ultimately what you can draw a lot of benefits from. So I'm happy to hear that. And you started tying that a bit into your reason why you wanted to pursue medicine. So could you elaborate maybe a bit more on what's led you to go down this pathway and why you selected medicine as your SHPEP pathway?
Of course. So again, I am a pre-med student, and at the beginning, so kind of applying to medicine when it comes to SHPEP. Um, so when it comes to the program, I thought I would benefit the most since I will have the opportunity to shadow physicians from different specialties, as well as opportunities to expand my knowledge, skill set, as well as the connections among the School of Medicine. But when it comes to me personally pursuing medicine, one of the biggest reasons I would like to pursue medicine is to really connecting it with my background. I was born in Afghanistan and moved to Turkey when I was 9 years old, and I lived there for 7 years. And I have been here in the United States for the past almost 5 years. When I came to this country, I had no English knowledge, and as I went through these past 5 years, of course, there were many challenges that myself as well as my family have gone through, and there were times I questioned myself almost every single day where I belong here, or am I worth of all these opportunities that I'm evaluating? And and at these times, these were not only learning experience for myself, but also for my parents. And I'm also the oldest of four siblings. And kind of considering all these obligations, the work I've been doing is not only for myself, but also for my family, the people I represent, as well as the community that I'm living in. And kind of in capturing all these values, I know that could be lots of stress on our shoulders. And time to time, we're thinking, hey, I'm carrying basically the entire shoulder, I mean, entire world on our shoulders. Uh, and at these times, we kind of, again, hesitate ourselves, right? We began doubting and seeing if we can really pursue these careers that we have in mind. And at those times, we tend to hesitate from reaching out to help. And these are the values that I gained when it comes to experiencing challenges. So hopefully I can be a hope for someone else who has gone through similar experiences like me, and hopefully ease the process of this transition when it comes to moving to a new country, because I know it can be come up with lots of challenges, but also new opportunities to learn and grow. So I've gone through this process and I know I can accomplish it. And if I can accomplish, I know that many other students can also accomplish as well. So that's kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to pursue medicine in the first place.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and your background, Arian. I'm sure it's very inspiring for a lot of students that we have here in the audience to hear your story. And, you know, they realize that this is something that they can definitely achieve too. It's not necessarily the easiest path, right? Especially for people that immigrate to the United States, may not always have a lot of resources or a lot to fall back on, but it definitely doesn't mean that it's an impossible path. And I relate to a lot of what you said about your journey. I myself am an immigrant as well. I moved to the United States at the age of 11 and started here in the 6th grade. So I can definitely understand how it's very difficult, especially initially, just having to navigate a different culture, a different language, a different way of just your daily life, right? So it can be very, very daunting at first, and especially when you start realizing, you know, what career am I going to go into? What is it that really kind of drives me to maybe want to go to work every day? So I'm curious to hear a bit more about, well, tying this into how, you know, sometimes it can be difficult to find resources or hear about programs like these. How is it that you first found out about SHPEP? Did you hear about it on school, from a friend, maybe a student organization? How did that come about?
Of course. Yeah, thanks for following on that. You know, it's quite interesting because the first time I heard about SHPEP was actually I was a junior. I was a junior in high school. I attended informational sessions hosted by our University of Washington SHPEP program coordinator. Shout out to her, Nora Coronado. And I put the connections. And when I became a senior in high school, I did the same thing. Went on those informational sessions, kept on those connections, and I really wanted to apply during my first year of college. But I ended up doing CNA and phlebotomy certification during my first year of undergraduate journey. And then for second year, which was this past year, I was thankfully able to participate as I wrapped my second year of college. Yeah, I've been I've been interested in doing the SHP program since junior year of high school, and I'm sure there are many of our panelists who are high school students. but sadly not eligible at this moment. But I'm glad that they're also here, getting the opportunity to learn more about the program and see how they can evaluate it when time comes. So glad you guys are here, and this will be a great initiative to get more information and be ready when time comes to apply for the program.
Definitely, it's always so good to hear about the work that some of our program sites are doing, right? Especially the outreach to the high schools, because I mean, one of the best things that can happen is someone that's currently in high school, they hear about SHPP and they're already thinking about maybe going into one of the health professions. So I feel like being able to learn about SHPP early on can really help applicants to kind of gauge whether or not this is a program they might want to participate in. So it gives them more time. So it's really, really great to hear about the work that, again, our program sites are doing, especially with high schools. Now, let's kind of move forward a bit to when you actually started the program, right? So what was the day-to-day experience sort of like when you participated in SHPP? Was it in person? Was it remote, or was it hybrid? So what did those daily activities kind of look like for you?
Of course. So like I've mentioned previously, I've attended the SHPP here at the University of Washington, Seattle, and we've had our first 4 weeks online, and last 2 weeks were in person, where mainly was the shadowing portion. So I can talk to you about both ways when it comes to online as well as in-person learnings. So first 4 weeks, as it was online, our schedule was kind of running through 9:30 to 1:30-ish, and this was basically consist of courses as well as pathway workshops. As Within the University of Washington, we have medicine, public health, as well as dentistry. And one other thing was service learning project, which was something that we developed during my year of SHPP in 2023. And what this was how this looked was so we connected with community organizations that does work for the public, and I was in a team of 5 with my other colleagues from SHPP. And our organization was Washington Physicians for Social Responsibility, so also known as WPSR, working toward climate crisis, economic inequity, as well as nuclear weapons. So each organization were assigned a community advisor, and we met with them online, of course, during these 4 weeks to kind of learn more about the organization, set up a plan, as well as see what we can do to advance their work and more. So first 4 weeks, again, mainly classes in pathway workshops that helped each of our pathway participants to go through the process. And especially for me, going into medical school, we've started from the personal statements, letter of recommendations, and kind of those medical school 101 panels hosted by the admission of the University of Washington. So those were super helpful. And last 2 weeks, which was the in-person part, and that was mainly shadowing. So throughout the week, 2 days, that was when I had my shadowings, as well as more work with our community organization. And actually, we ended up creating a PSA, also known as a public service announcement video, with our service learning project, which was super rewarding, and actually got lots of shares and replies and great comments within our community as well. So we felt super proud of the work we have done with our SHPP scholars, and and of course, if you guys are interested in, I can also send that video at the very end. But that's how the last 2 weeks were lasted. Of course, it was kind of bittersweet, right? As we were just get to know each other with our teammates as we went on different team bonding activities aside to our shadowings. So here in Seattle, we have the famous Mount Rainier, as well as certain parks here in Seattle, beaches, and just many other activities you can think of as you're going to, I don't know, let's say Pike Place Market or restaurants around the Ave. Again, many other fun stuff aside to shadowing to just kind of connect as well as get to know each other as scholars.
Yeah, I really liked especially how you kind of painted the picture of Seattle towards the end there, just some different spots that you can check out. And that really is one of the huge benefits of SHPP, I would say, right? For some people that maybe haven't traveled much in the past, getting to see a new city, meet new people, kind of gain these new perspectives. It's such a wonderful aspect of participating in the program. And, despite for example, in your case, you participated in a more of a hybrid modality, right? Where it was 4 weeks on virtual, 2 weeks in person. It's so good to hear that despite the fact that the program was hybrid, you were still able to gain so much from it. And it kind of reminds me of my time when I participated in SHPP. I did it back in 2020. So, things had just kind of started with the pandemic. So all the program sites were trying to figure out what to do, and everything was pretty much remote. So I remember there being a lot of hesitation in me on whether or not I wanted to kind of continue participating in the program. I was really scared because I wasn't sure what the experience was going to be like. No one could really expect it. But then we go into the 6 weeks, and it was like the program sites really managed to put it all together in such a wonderful way. We were getting our academic enrichment sessions. We were doing socials every now and then. It was over Zoom, but they still try to facilitate it so that the scholars could get to know one another and build those relationships, right? Because that's such an important component of the program. And even with our instructors, we were able to sometimes have one-on-one chats with them, which was such a wonderful component of the program. And on that note, I would like to hear a bit more about the instructors that you kind of connected with at your program site. What was that like? I mean, did you mainly interact with them through the academic enrichment sessions, or maybe you were able to have some conversations with them while you were shadowing? So what were those kind of interactions with your instructors like?
Course, yeah. Thanks for following up on that question. So one of the main things, again, I can mention, you will have various instructions as you're going through that either online as well as in-person learning environment. Um, and that includes, again, the pathways as well as other essential workshops that will help you to become a more holistic healthcare professionals, including the social justice workshops, financial information, and as well as wellness. So when it comes to our SHPP instructors, one thing that our instructors really followed was to provide what we call as a learn to learn model. And what this kind of consists of is to providing us opportunities to not only learn from our instructors, but also learn from each other as scholars. And Again, as we had this 4 weeks of online didactic curriculum at the beginning, right? Each week the subjects were different, and this includes population health, biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, and microbiology. And I mean, just think about it, right? Kind of looking from a broad perspective, there's no way, right? You can learn everything about those 4 topics in 1 week, right? It's just impossible. They were providing us materials such as how to approach solving certain questions, as well as strategies to address the topic in a more efficient way, right? These are knowledge and skill sets that I would be able to use not only during the program, but also throughout my undergrad journey, right? And that was kind of the benefit of learn to learn model when it comes to those learning environments. And of course, our instructors are super supportive, super sweet, and from my perspective, I might be biased on this, but I gotta tell you this: they are one of the best on their works. Um, they're always open for support even after we're done. Again, they're an email away, they're a text away, as well as aside to our SHPEP instructors. Um, I would like to provide a shout out to our TAs as well. So aside to our SHPP instructors, our TAs are also hosting office hours aside to our regular 9:30 to 1:30 session. And so I always try to join their office hours, and each RTAs have different experiences. Some of them have done undergrad research, some have done internships aside to SHPP, and some of them have already applied and got into medical school, dental schools, and their selection. I mean their favorite public health schools. So those are great resources for them to learn more about and perhaps how to prepare for the schools that we are intended to go. So again, those instructors are not only consist of the instructor that you meet, but also you've got so much outside support that could be a great benefit when it comes to maximizing your learning experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing about your experience with your instructors. You know, you really seem to be echoing what a lot of the scholars through all the program sites say, right? That these instructors that participate in SHPEP, they're devoting their time to the program. So it's pretty much a cause that they care about. So these instructors, they're going to want to be engaged with their students. They're going to want to share their passion with them. And that was also personally my experience. So again, it's really wonderful to kind of see those relationships grow as you proceed through the program. And you know, with some of these instructors, those relationships may obviously continue to grow past the point of the program, right? And that's the beauty of it. In my case, I developed some relationships with the instructors at the University of Florida, and they were actually, since I was a student at UF, they were able to connect me with other faculty members to, you know, land research opportunities, for example. So knowing these instructors and fostering those relationships with them throughout the point of the program can really help expand your network and open doors that you may have not even thought were possible before. So it was so wonderful to hear about your experience with the program, but I'd like to pivot a bit now and hear more about where you currently are in your path. You know, ever since you participated in the program, what's been new in your story, kind of what's in store in the future for you? Where are you currently on your path?
Course. Of course, first and foremost, it's been such a pleasure to serve as an ambassador for the SHPEP program. That's one of the biggest awards when it comes to SHPEP. Myself, as well as one of my other colleague from University of Washington, we have been doing lots of work. It includes even on campus as well as off campus when it comes to social media and advertisement. We have been cabling, reaching out to various departments from our school to make sure that there's the way kind of how we describe it is finding those hidden gems. And those gems are our students, right? Our students that are passionate as well as really those sorts of inspirations for future generations that are becoming healthcare professionals. And when it comes to my personal journey with university, so after I have shadowed my physicians from the last 2 weeks, where I had the chance of interacting with them, I'm still in contact with them. And just earlier today, I talked to one of those physicians that I shadowed, and I will soon be shadowing them once again. And it's crazy to believe, and as Alessio mentioned at the very beginning, right earlier, how these connections take you on further opportunities. Actually, one of the physicians I've shadowed, she invited me to physical examination sessions of medical school students, and I was able to validate that opportunity where I do not think many people would really know, because that's something that first year medical school students does. And she was like, "Oh, hey, you want to join?" And I said, "Was that a question?" Of course, of course I will do. So these are opportunities that comes up along the way, which you want, which you will never expect. But again, that I think really ties into you being able to take that extra step and having the opportunity to connect with them, right? That's really the key, because they can provide you as much support, as much help, and if you do not take that responsibility and take a step forward, that won't really take the connections further. So that's why I always encourage our scholars, our future scholars in this case, to connect with them in a heartedly way, rather than just saying, "Oh, hey, thanks so much for allowing me to that time to shadow with them and be gone." Right? That's not really ethical. And my journey of here at EDUB, well, as of now, plan is to graduate in 2025. I'm hoping to take the MCAT by either the end of 2025 or beginning of 2026. So I'm hoping to apply for the medical school application cycle in 2026 and become a candidate, hopefully by 2027, and begin my medical school journey there. I know it seems like quite a long journey, but believe me, when I was in high school, I said, "Oh man, 4 years of undergrad education, how will it pass?" But look at now, 3 years I've already gone. So just be patient, patience, and patience, and remember why you started this journey at the first place. Right at the beginning, I've mentioned things that I do is not only for myself, but for my family, the people I represent, as well as the community I live in. Right, it all comes with purpose. It all comes with why and how I would like to pursue this, to remember those. And this will really help you to continue reaching out those goals, even though at the darkest times. So keep believing in yourself and just focus on that why, and you will do great things. So again, reach out to those people that really believe in you.
You know, I really appreciate that point that you made towards the end, because I think we can all agree that pursuing a career in the health professions in general is not the easiest path. So there will be kind of those challenging moments along the way, kind of moments of doubt maybe, where you may think you're not really cut out for this. But like you said, in those moments, it's very important to kind of remind yourself of why you even set foot on this path to begin with. And typically that was your initial motivating factor. So in these challenging times, you can always fall back on that, whether it be on these learned experiences you've had, kind of what motivates you to want to keep going down this path. And yeah, you hit it on the nail. The time goes flying by. You know, it seems like a really, really long journey, but I remember stepping foot into my college campus like it was yesterday, and I'm already here a year post grad. So it definitely does go by flying. But um, so you know, you touched up a bit on what you've seen in terms of like the peers around you at SHPP and your learned experiences. So when you kind of take everything that you've seen throughout your life, right? Your upbringing, your experience as an immigrant, kind of people that you've met along the way, or whether it was other SHPP scholars or physicians through your cohort, kind of taking all this information and broadening our scope, why do you think diversity is important in the healthcare field?
Of course. Thanks so much, Alessio, for such an important question here, especially. So my kind of response would that be is really look at the world around us, right? We were seeing so much trauma, so much anxiety, as well as uncertainty. And us as healthcare workers will be working um, with a group of people, and they've carrying all these numerous backgrounds, experiences, as well as perspectives, right? There will be times where we won't even believe the life as well as challenges they've gone through. And I'd like to emphasize kind of the distinction between tolerance as well as acceptance here, right? Of course, we won't be able to make every single human being happy, as there could be barriers for us, right, as healthcare professionals, personally overcome, and which, first of all, most likely take time as well as energy, kind of extent. However, we can develop tolerance, right? Which is acknowledging their obstacles as well as acknowledging the existence of their problem, right? And really make them feel belong to this place. So, and then what I kind of summarize these feelings is that, again, us here, we can talk as long as we can, right? And everyone can connect from the brain, but very few people can connect with the heart. And I think that's what really takes us a step forward, kind of diversifying our environment, right? Um, and what I mean by that is, so let's think about this, right? I'm kind of confronting my patients, have this one-on-one conversation, and the more I speak in general sense and say, okay, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, and this is how we can develop this treatment plan. Okay, this is great. This is something that they would be able to hear from everyone else, right? But as I get the chance to um, really take the time to listen to them, as well as acknowledge the problem they've gone through, that's when they will also feel more comfortable sharing their um, sharing thoughts that they may not feel comfortable, perhaps sharing with somebody else, right? And these are, I think, values as well as meaningful experiences that we gain out of our time here. So as future healthcare professionals, really diversity. I do not think it really entails into right? Our race, our ethnicity, our gender, our sexuality, all these encaptures under a certain umbrella. And again, these all comes to our values as well as the meaningful experiences that we want to gain out of our visit. That 15 minutes, right? That 15 minutes could really change someone's life. And kind of my perspective on that is, again, helping one person may not change the world, but it may change the world for one person. And that's really kind of the idea of diversifying that environment, right? Um, as a healthcare professionals, we will be seeing 15, 20, or even more patients based on the uh, environment you will be working, right? If you can have an impact on one person, again, I think that's one of the most rewarding things that we can ever ask for as healthcare professionals. And that's really when we get asked the question, why you want to pursue healthcare, right? Helping people. Of course, we say helping people, but actually what that means to us is really differentiates based on person to person. And I think that's what really means to me when it comes to being able to help someone. And that's again comes with diversifying our healthcare, not only I would say environment, but also our staff, as well as our understanding of what that entails to different kinds of people.
Thank you so much, Arian. And I completely agree with your answer, right? Change starts at the individual level. Sometimes we can be very ambitious about our goals. And while it is as equally important to think about kind of the big picture things, I think as we proceed into our careers and down these journeys, it's kind of important to remind ourselves that change, again, begins at the individual level, right? How are you, as whether it be a doctor, a dentist, a public health specialist, how are you as a professional impacting the lives of those individuals that you directly interact with? So really, really wonderful point that you made there, and I could not agree more. So one last question for you that I have, Arian, is that one of the challenges that our SHP or our prospective SHPP applicants face is sometimes asking someone a letter of recommendation. So what was your process like for identifying someone that can write this letter of recommendation for you, and how did you go about asking them to do it?
Of course, so glad I got the chance to ask that because um, a lot of recommendations, of course, could be scary time to time. But one of the things that I really kind of emphasize is I look at my own application, right, and I see the kind of values as well as the experiences I put in to make sure that I want the people who are seeing my application, reading my application. So, and and I kind of um, see who I know that could provide more and more value into my application, right? Rather than seeing, oh, whether I know someone who has an MD title, MD, PhD, or any other titles along those lines, right? These are things that I cared less, and that I think provided me an opportunity to kind of expand my scope and see who I actually know that could contribute a value into my application. And that's kind of how I started with that thought process. And when it comes to approaching to my instructors, personally, of course, email is kind of one of the I guess most convenient ways to approach them if you're not too sure actually about having that conversation. But personally, myself, that helped me a lot is actually went to them personally, physically, in person, and said, "Oh, hey, right, I'm applying to this program called SHPEP, and and I would like to apply to this program, and I would like you to have and hoping that you will be a recommender for this program, as we have met and had these conversations, and you know my values, you know what I would like to pursue in the future, and that's kind of what I did instead of, well, on top of sending them an email. Uh, so if you're too nervous about sending that email and kind of receiving a more of that optimal, let's say, response, I highly encourage you to go to them in person again, have a conversation for that 30 seconds, and never know, that conversation may go even beyond excellence that you may ever think. So those are some of my tips that I personally have done, and again, that helped me, and perhaps might help you as well when it comes to asking for a letter of recommendation.
I definitely agree with that point that you made about just asking for the letter of recommendation directly in person, right? If you're having a conversation with them, sometimes they might feel more inclined to say yes, you know, as opposed to just sitting behind the screen in an email, kind of like, no, you know, probably not. So I would say it's a good strategy to go about it, just asking for it in person. And you know, that's a wonderful piece of advice that I think will help us close off this Q&A session. Thank you so much, Arian, you know, for your time, for being here, for such thoughtful responses. I'm sure the entire audience really enjoyed to hear them. So again, we really appreciate your time here with us today. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
So now I'm going to turn it back over to Tony, and I believe we're going to open up the floor for a general Q&A. Think you're muted.
Sorry, I was double muted. Apologies. I was just saying thank you, Arian. Thank you, Alessio, for leading such a great conversation. You know, I think this is pivotal right now for students to hear because ultimately, you know, they're in the midst of either getting ready to start their application or getting ready to get to that next step in their journey. And you know what, SHPEP, you know, we definitely want to make sure we build resources around students. So like that, you know, we can make sure that everyone is, you know, definitely informed and things like that. You know, so as I was going through the Q&A, you know, I was definitely answering a few questions, but I definitely wanted to give an opportunity because I definitely saw like some really interesting ones. And Stephanie, I think I'm going to go rapid fire with you for a little bit, right? So with the first one, I see a question here that says, I understand that there is a citizenship status requirement to apply to SHPEP. I'm in the middle of my process. I'm in the middle of the process of getting my green card, and I've been approved for one, and I'm just waiting for it, but it will not be here until January. What do you recommend for the students to do? Could they still apply to SHPEP?
So unfortunately, you cannot, and I did see another question about this type of situation too. You have to hold one of the 3 statuses listed. So it's DACA, permanent resident, or US citizen. And this is at the time of the application. You actually are not allowed to hit submit until you have it. And unfortunately, it's just we have to be strict on this because you know, things move slow and we can't risk the program starting and that person not having that document ready in their hands or whatever it is, you know. So that is probably out of all the eligibility, like that has to be one of the 3.
Perfect.
So we can only wish for the best. Hopefully you get it by February 5th, but no, because we just we've had too many incidents where the students had to be let go and they couldn't participate and they found out later, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see there's like a lot of questions about, you know, transcripts, how to submit them, you know. So I'm just gonna see one right here, you know, as far as like certain institutions, they use either the National Student Clearinghouse or Parchment. Should they be listing that email SHPEP transcripts at AAMC.org to send them electronically? I'm curious to hear, could you give us like a little bit of feedback on, or a little bit of last second tips just for like
Sure.
transcripts?
So if you've never ordered a transcript before, which is very possible, right? Most of the time it's listed on their website on how to do that. You could just search through the website transcripts and usually something will pop up on the next steps on what you're looking for. Not every school will do an email transcript. That's fine. A lot of schools now use parchments too, which is, it's the same thing to us. Like we don't want it coming from you, or like sometimes people have their advisors send it. It's really strange, you know, like on how we actually get these. We basically don't want anyone touching it besides the institution or their affiliated partner with it. So yes, we take, you know, parchment transcripts. That's totally fine. It's really about how you go about doing it. And yes, if you can get an email, that is probably the best way to do it. But of course, we'll still take mailed. It's just we're not in the office as much as we used to be, so it's a little bit slower on the processing times. And like emailed is a little bit nicer too, because you get a peace of mind, you get a digital receipt. You know it's there. The only thing I would recommend too is make sure you don't forget the S. It is transcripts, not transcript. And then if you are trying to send something, remember, like we actually, you know, we work with the AMC, so there's other application services within the AMC. So if you see anything like AMCAS, you know, different types of things that are connected to the MC, it's not us. So don't have your transcript sent to them. You kind of will get this, you'll notice this because it might ask for a transcript ID. That's how you know you're on the wrong application, because we are not that application. We're SHPEP. So all you really need to do is provide the email and it will get sent to us.
You know, it's definitely, that's a great point. After my time in AMCAS, you know, there were times that we would receive SHPEP transcripts. So, you know, you definitely want to make sure you're sending it to the right place. And, you know, just to kind of put myself in the shoes of an applicant, Steph, right? So I went through the process, right? I'm submitting my transcript, just as you said, and now like I'm getting a little antsy because, you know, I want to figure out when this transcript is going to get there. How do I go about, if I'm an applicant, making sure that my transcript is sent to the MPO and it's been received?
Excuse me. So, you know, a couple things to consider. Remember, your school has processing times. So just because you order it that day does not mean that it gets sent out that day yet, or even arrive to us that day. And so the first thing that is, okay, know your school's processing times. The second thing, once you know it's been sent, whether it's in the mail or email, you kind of need to give it a few days to receive it and to process it, right? You can call us to see where we are in line. And this is particularly true towards the end, once we're getting closer to the deadline, especially those last 2 weeks. Like, we get inundated with transcripts, you know, and we're not a large group. It's like me and one other person doing it, right? So it does take time. So that's also when, you know, I said apply early. It wasn't necessarily to increase your chances. It's really just so you don't have to deal with your transcript getting waiting in line. Now with this year with recommendations, it's automated now, right? So that's going to definitely speed up that process, but you of course wanted to make sure it's on your account. So just to reiterate, check your processing times, contact your school to make sure it's been sent. Then you can call us and say, hey, I don't see an update. I know it was sent last week, you know. So we do have a processing time of 10 business days. Of course, it might be faster. We hope it's faster. But if it's been the 10 business days and you know we should have it by now, definitely contact us so we can kind of do more investigation on it. Like, we want to complete your application just as much as you do. So definitely, you know, reach out to us if you think something's up. But if you just ordered it yesterday, it's not going to be up there. Like, give it a minute. Like, but you can check if you know, like, to make sure it's in line and where it is online and all that good stuff. But it's not gonna be like being on your application, you know.
Oh, perfect. And, you know, I'm going to kind of get others involved here as well. So, you know, I have Alessio and Arian, who are both ambassadors, and I saw a question recently, right, that was talking more so about majors and what's needed to get into, like, you know, SHPEP. Do you have to be a certain major? Let's say if I was a criminal justice major, am I able to apply? Or do I have to be like a science major? And I'm curious to hear, not from us, but more so the students that actually participated in the program. So let's go with Alessio, and then we could follow up with Arian.
So this is going to be a common theme that you might also run into when applying to professional schools, but to apply to SHPEP, you do not need to have any specific major. You can be a philosophy major, you can be a photography major, you can be a chemistry major. It does not matter as long as you meet the eligibility criteria of the program. I also did see a question about someone asking if there's any prerequisite courses they would have to take for the program, and that's also not the case. So again, as long as you meet the eligibility criteria, we encourage you to apply. You don't need to fall within a specific major. You don't need to have taken specific classes. And I'm going to pass it over to Arian if he would like to add more.
Yep, thank you, Alicia, for kind of elaborating on that. And I'll just echo to what you mentioned. I'm not gonna believe, but I've had a colleague who was a French major, but in the medicine pathway. So again, you may ask, okay, if French is a language, it's a foreign language, but they're still applying to SHPEP. Again, these are possible, and there's no specific requirement when it comes to major. And I will also, I'm so glad you mentioned Alessio on that side, when it comes to taking prerequisites. So for instance, here at my side at the University of Washington, we had the population health, biology, organic chemistry / chemistry. So some of us have not taken organic chemistry, and that was also including myself, which I'm taking this year. And our instructors did their best to kind of elaborate both on people who have taken organic chemistry and people who have just taken general chemistry. as we know that there are students who are freshmen, and freshmen technically we do not accept them to expect them to take the organic chemistry sequence. So these are again things that our instructors are really taking care of into consideration and make sure that is as equal and as equitable to everyone who's participating.
Yeah, and just to add on my few little 2 cents, right? Honestly, when you apply to medical school or dental school or any program, you're not gonna, you don't have to be a certain major. And what's really required when you apply to those types of schools or programs is the prerequisite courses, right? Now, we don't need that for here, right? Because we're SHPEP and we're more so target for college freshmen and sophomore students. So right now, if I were a college freshman, I'd be trying to figure out what my major is just in general, even before trying to apply to, trying to get myself in order first, right? So, ultimately, you don't have to have all the answers. This program is meant for you to explore different disciplines and health professions because, you may find something that you're interested in and that you have a passion for. We have students that come in that feel, you know what, I want to be a nurse, I want to be a pharmacist. And then later on, they find out, you know what, I want to go into medicine. I actually like dentistry, so really, this program is meant for you to explore different disciplines and pathways, but also give you the foundational building blocks to get to that next step as well. So I just want to throw that there. And I see we're getting a little close on time. So I'm gonna, ask our last question to our 2 ambassadors here. And really, if you were to give a piece of advice to applicants right now going through the process of applying to SHPEP, and if you put yourself in the shoes for when you were an applicant, what's one thing you wish you could tell these students right now that are applying?
So I'll jump into that and just say that the number one thing you should be keeping in mind is to just be genuine. Your personal statement is really what's going to make you stand out from the other applicants. I mean, that's the only part of your application where you really get to showcase who you are, what your story is, what's led you to this point, and why you want to pursue the career that you're going to or you wish to pursue. So in your personal statement, don't lie. That should be obvious, right? But it can happen in some circumstances, and you may never know if that lie is going to be caught by someone. So just be yourself, be genuine, and talk about the activities that you've involved yourself in, not because you're trying to check some sort of box, but because you had a genuine interest in participating in those activities, right? When you're writing your personal statement, this is going to shine through immediately. So just again, be genuine, be true to yourself, and really write your personal statement in a way where the person that's reading it can really get to see who you are and kind of understand where you're coming from and be like, okay, I want to accept this person to participate in our program.
Yep, adding on to what Alessio mentioned, of course, personal statements are one of the biggest things. So I won't even mention, as Alessio already provided great information on those sides. But on technicality, I think one of the other things I would recommend is to check out the informational sessions hosted by different sites that you're interested in to apply. So perhaps you are interested in applying to, well, as we are encouraging, to 3 different sites, right? And be sure to check out their program sites as well as follow them on Instagram, which most of them have, and they are hosting informational sessions that will help you to kind of, let's say, answer more specific questions regarding their own sites. So that's one thing I highly encourage you to evaluate as you're preparing to apply uh, for the application. And one other thing I would say is to um, seek for help uh, when when you have time rather than kind of going into the last minute and asking let's say right calling the AMC and kind of expecting to have an answer immediately and this is I think one of the best things that you would be able to do when it comes to um, your personal statement as well as our letter of recommendation. So please provide yourself as well as your recommender, as well as the people who will be answering those calls and answering your questions sometime, right? Because there are hundreds of students are applying. And of course, it could be a frustrating process as you're waiting to get an answer for the question you may be asking. But please do allow yourself some time. As of now, it might seem like, oh, hey, okay, February 5th, we've got a little over 1.5 months left. but believe me, that's not really too much. I highly encourage you to kind of use that time a bit more into your practice. So know yourself, and then please do reach out for help when needed, rather than kind of going into that last minute, because those are really full stresses, and you wouldn't want to have that such stress when it comes to that last minute conversation.
Thanks for that, Ariane. And Stephanie, I was wondering if you had maybe some last few thoughts for us, for our audience today, for anyone who's applying to SHPEP or just general advice.
Well, I mean, I think I stressed it a million times, but make sure you know your time zone. Every year, people don't submit because they think they have until midnight and they're on the West Coast. The second thing would be, make sure you know the dates, the important dates, and the policies of the documents, of course. So you just don't waste your time and energy and having to redo it. So yeah, I think that's kind of what I'd part on.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's great. I'm gonna take a little bit of a different angle here. Understand that, this could be the first time that you're applying to anything in the health professions, right? Or this could be your potential first experience, and you may be feeling a little sense of imposter syndrome, like maybe I don't belong here. Maybe, I'm not as good as I think I am. And the fact of the matter is you're as good enough as you make yourself be. And honestly, if you believe that you'll do it, regardless of what anyone says, because you're gonna have the people that, are gonna hate on you. I don't know any professional way to say that, but I'll be very honest there. I'd rather you, understand that you bring a lot to this table and that you belong. And throughout this program, you get to see people who are just like you learning that they belong as well. So that's really the empowerment of our program, right? And I think that's really the special sauce here, where you get to actually hear people that are around you and they say, wow, you know what? You build this network of students, you build this network of faculty and staff, and a lot of professional references that are going to be made throughout this process. I think this program can truly have a tremendous impact on you if you let it, and if you give yourself the opportunity to hit submit on the application. Now, I know there's a lot of time now between here and February 5th. The one thing I will also add is that I hope that you'll join us for our free health professions fair hosted by us. We're going to have our program sites there. So if you want to learn a little bit more about some of the program sites that are going to be around that you plan on applying to, you can engage and interact with them there. But also, our program, our virtual fair is going to be open to anyone. So if you know anyone who's interested in applying to medical or dental school, or looking to ultimately enhance some of the professional networks that they've made or that they want to make, definitely tell them to apply to register for our virtual fair. It's completely free and it's open to everyone. That said, I won't belabor the point. I want us to have a great night. And I hope everyone, this session was recorded, so you can expect this on our YouTube channel. And I hope everyone has a great night. Good night, everyone.